Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your latest Wolves Fancast episode. It's 6:30. I know it might be a bit early for some of you, probably sitting there and having your tea as we speak. Welcome to the Wolves Fancast match preview episode. I'm in association with Auddy and the Bostin Coffee vending company. On tonight's show, I've got with me Jeffo, Danny, and Lewis Sharp. We have been sharing some of Lewis's posts recently on our social media. I'm going to ask Louis, because obviously he's a new guest to the show. The standard three questions we ask to all our new guests. Firstly, this is another one that's going to roll up me and Danny to a degree because there's another youngster who's on the show. We usually have a set question on the Fancast when new guests come on, and it is, who's your favourite Wolves player that isn't Steve Bull? Were you even born when Steve Bull played, Lewis?
No, 2000 I was born.
Game's gone. I'm supporting Stourbridge Glass Boys from next season. Fuck this. Who's your favourite Wolves player that isn't Steve Bull, Lewis?
Oh, do you know what? The best player I think we've all watched, I've watched is Ruben Neves. But, in terms of player that I loved growing up was actually Michael Kiteley. He was probably the first player that I used to love playing for Wolves. I don't know why. That was obviously when we was in the Prem when I was at school. All the other kids were going on about Ronaldo, etc. I was going on about Michael Kiteley, and they didn't have a clue what I was on about. So, I always remember that.
Yeah, proper rags to riches story. Michael Carley going from Grays to Wolves to the Premier League in like a handful of seasons. Really impressive. I still remember when he scored that goal against Villa at home when he came back from all the injuries. I mean, we absolutely battered Villa first half. Emmanuel Frimpong probably had the best 45 minutes of his career that day. And I remember being sort of choked up when Carley scored. It must have been the drink. I don't know what else it could have been. But yeah, I was chuffed for him when he scored past Shay Given. Unfortunately, we went on to lose the game in the end. But yeah, Michael Carley is a great show. And then the stupid question, which is a Fancast legacy question, Lewis, is where do you keep your chocolate and your sauces, in the kitchen or the cupboard? Sorry, yeah, cupboard or the fridge.
Oh, fridge.
There's no other way. People who have chocolate in the cupboard, you belong in the
Right.
register. Chocolate register. Let's talk about Wolves a bit more in depth. Let's just talk about Lewis's walk for a second. www.givewill.com/fundraising/1502/walk-to-Wolves. Lewis, tell the viewers, listeners about your fundraising walk before the Palace game.
Yeah, so it started with Brentford last season, campaign against living miserably, a men's mental health charity. I lost my best mate 2 years ago today, actually, who was a big Wolves fan. We did a minute's applause during a Man United game. And in terms of, I walked to Brentford last season. They do that in the month of October. It's called the Lost Hours Walk. And I've always wanted to walk to a home game. I do enjoy walking. And I thought, Palace is local. To me, it's my local club. So it just made sense. A lot of my friends support Palace. Now, I was going to do a lot of the London games. I'll just get up on my phone. I was going to do a lot of the London games as training, but I thought, why not incorporate them into the walk as well, into the challenge? So I'll be walking 271 miles to Wolves games this year. So I'm doing Palace away next Sunday is the first one. I've got a lot of my mates joining me for that. And then Fulham, Arsenal, West Ham, Brentford, Chelsea and Tottenham. And then Palace at home is the last one. So planning's well underway. It's going to take me 5 days. It's 4 ultra marathons and the last leg's 10 miles. So target's 15 grand. We'll see how close we get, but I think it's definitely doable. And 3 great charities as well.
Yeah, you mentioned them there. Obviously, the great foundation, Calm. You got the Wolves and the Crystal Palace foundations. You just mentioned your mate there, obviously 2 years today. Do you want to tell us about your mate? How did you come about becoming a Wolves fan from the Crystal Palace area, Lewis?
Yeah, so my granddad, and everyone goes, oh, so your granddad was from Wolverhampton. He wasn't. He was actually from Battersea. He was ill when he was growing up, and he had 8 brothers and sisters who all used to go to Chelsea games. He couldn't go. He used to listen to Wolves on the radio. Obviously, we was unbelievable then. He got a season ticket, was one of the first members of London Wolves Supporters Club, and he's been going ever since. Still comes with me now. He's 76 now. He'll hate me for saying that on here, but 76. My dad's a Wolves fan. And I am as well. And we've always gone. We've got a great group of friends, both from London and also in Wolverhampton as well.
Obviously, just mention your mate who passed away.
Yeah. So in terms of my mate, we actually met him on the pre-season tour to Switzerland. So there was a group of us going out there, and we had a minibus booked from Zurich to Bern because we was playing young boys, and we had 2 spare spaces. One of my friends, Mason, and then the other guy as well, Bid. I don't want to mention too much because his family don't want too much publicity about it. They just jumped in and we become best mates really. He'd come to all the games with us for the 2 or 3 year spell that we knew him. You know, he was going to every game. He stayed at his if I was at uni and I was in Wolverhampton, especially those Europa League games, Thursday night to sort of Sunday, and then I'd go home. So become probably one of my best friends. So yeah, it was heartbreaking. But yeah, made a great friend, and it shows what football's all about, really.
Football brings so many people together. It's obviously gutting through that story for you. We've all lost people in that circumstance, and it's never pleasant. But just to mention it again, Lewis is doing various fundraising walks this season. You can find the fundraising page at www.givewheel.com/fundraising/1502/walk-to-Wolves. Right, let's get on to all the current affairs at Wolves, because, like I say, it's a roller coaster club, and the biggest sort of transfer news that's come out this week is obviously Wolves rejected a bid for Nunes yesterday, around a fee around £47 million. Gary O'Neill in today's press conference mentioned that we've basically rejected a link. He's seen as an important player for Wolves. He's got 4 or potentially 5 years left on his contract. He's obviously suspended for this weekend, but we rejected a bid because we didn't feel it met our valuation of what Mateus is worth to us, so we move on. Danny, come to you first on the Mateus Nunes situation. 47 million should have been literally, it shouldn't have even been acknowledged, in my opinion, never mind laughed at. What sort of fee should we be commanding if Mateus Nunes is to exit the doors this window?
I think the fact he has got 4, possibly 5 years left, you've got to be looking 65 million. And I'd want a player or 2 coming the other way, whether that's one on loan, one permanent. I know we've been after a couple of their younger players. But we now City have got money. They were ready to drop 80 million on Paqueta last week. So I think the 47 million, they know the low balling. They'll know it'll disrupt the player. They're just playing the game, which is fair enough. The problem for us is, as we know, someone's bid for our player. That's fine. We haven't bought anyone in that can transition, that can do what he does. And with the owners at the minute, which I'm sure we'll get on, none of us are confident where that money's going to go. We need it on the field. We haven't got squad depth. So even 65 million, is it worth it? Don't know.
That is the biggest fear at the moment, isn't it, Jeffo? Regardless of how much money we actually recoup from Mateus Nunes if he does leave, will any of it, if at all, a small percentage get reinvested in the squad? Gary O'Neill has mentioned today in his press conference, with 1 week left until the transfer window closes, I don't think people leaving are the only way that people will be arriving. There's things going on, and we're hoping to add and make things a little bit stronger. We're trying to be active in the market within our budget and what suits the club. It's that sort of last line there. What suits the club that really brings me fear in regards to whatever money we do recoup for Mateus. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think to be honest, if it would have done it at the start of the window and we'd have got a proper fee, like somewhere in between where they bid for Paqueta and where sort of Chelsea played for Caicedo, anything between those sort of ranges is probably fair for him. But to do it now with a week left, it's we're just putting ourselves in the same situation as where we put when Yulin left a week before the season starts. You lose somebody who's a key, who has not yet to this point been a key player, but somebody who should be a key player this season, and who has all this room to grow and become a very important player for Wolves. And you allow him to just walk out the door, not to a rival, but he's still going to be in the same league, and you got to replace these players. And I think, as Danny said earlier, he said we haven't got a player who is that natural progression. We haven't got many ball carrying players who play at Wolves, and to remove a player like that from a team so close to the end of the window is dangerous, because you can't replace them. And as Gary said in his press conference, he'd want to bring in players from that, but we all are fearful that that's probably not going to happen because of the situation at the club surrounding the finance, FFP, and what potentially may be happening behind the scenes with Fosun. So it's difficult to see where the club goes from this point with this potential transfer deal, and potentially how they carry on back end of this market and going into the January transfer window.
I'm still reluctant to jump on the Alex Scott bandwagon, but it would have been convenient if Matheus Nunes would have been sold to have Alex Scott coming in as a replacement. Lewis, what's your sort of feelings on the way that Matheus has performed in the opening 2 games? I think there's only Pedro Neto and Matheus Cunha that have completed less dribbles than him in the league with Julio Enciso. So, like Danny mentioned, he's a great ball carrier, but can we live on without him if he does leave?
I think I said to my friends earlier in the week, he's a great player. I still worry about scoring goals, because without a goal scorer, he doesn't score goals. He's not a goal scoring midfielder. He's great at making, but he's so key to us because he just beats players with ease. We saw Man United. Go back to sort of that sort of phase of play where he beat their whole midfield. He beat 3 of their midfielders and run with the ball, against lesser likes as well when you're trying to break teams down. I know he's got less space, but if you can beat players, that's what it's all about. That's what the fans want to see. My key concern is will the player force to move? I mean, things aren't pretty at Wolves right now. You've got Man City calling. People go, oh, he won't want to sit on the bench. Wouldn't he? I mean, we've seen a lot of other players do it. Look at Calvin Phillips. He's just sat on the bench, won the Champions League, Premier League, won the treble. He seems happy enough. If they're getting paid a bigger salary, winning trophies, albeit not playing, I just think this move's got Wolves written all over it at the moment. And I think you touched on it earlier. We have no faith in the board. So if, he does force that move, I think he goes.
Yeah, I think Matheus would probably back himself to feature for Man City if he did make the move. Obviously, Man City this summer lost Ilkay Gundogan. Kevin De Bruyne is going to be injured for 4 to 5 months. They're reporting, and then you see the players that Man City are linked with. Obviously, Paqueta, Eberechi Eze, and they've even been linked to Keenan Dewsbury all today, which I thought was a bit of an odd shout for Man City. I'm not really sure what their recruitment style is at the moment, because obviously it's a scattergun of midfielders they're getting linked to every day, as you will do when you're Man City and the money that they've got to spend. So it'll be interesting to see come the 1st of September whether Matheus Nunes will still be here. You mentioned whether he will push the move, whether his agent will push the move, because there does seem to be of a sort of, how do you word it, a separation in effect between Wolves and Jorge Mendes at the moment, which has been a long time coming to a degree. I've made the comment that we wouldn't have got to a European quarterfinal without Jorge Mendes and Nuno, but the relationship since that second season has gone really poorly. The recruitment's been poor. Apart from sort of Jota leaving, we haven't made any decent recruitment of any fees on players. So it does seem that we need to move the goalposts on our recruitment. Obviously, Matt Hobbs has started with a plan, and then Fosun have maybe taken away part of that financial area. So it is a difficult job for Matt Hobbs. I think that's why Gary O'Neill has been brought in. I think he mentioned today in his press conference, he literally called himself head coach. He's not there to do transfers. He's just there to have a say and coach what he's got in front of him. The other transfer news that came out this week was Nelson Semedo has been linked with a move to Manchester United, and Boubacar Traore has been linked with a move to, I think it's Borussia Mönchengladbach, if Liverpool sign Kone, who's at Borussia Mönchengladbach. What's your thoughts on Nelson Semedo to Man United, Danny? I think that there's been a rumoured £12 million fee, but as much as I'm not Semedo's biggest fan, I still think that's another fee that's laughable.
Yeah, too low. And regardless of money, we can't afford to lose him. What we've got behind him, we've got Matt Doherty. Johnny's still at the club, but the majority of his game's been left back. I thought Semedo, I know he's a bit Marmite in me. Some love him, some hate him. I thought against Man United first game, he was tremendous. And comparing him to Wan-Bissaka, who they had right back, and this is why I can see the link may be real. He gets into the opposition's half and he doesn't know what he's doing. But just for numbers alone, whether you like Semedo or not, I don't think we can afford to lose him.
This is what I mentioned in the conversation at work the other day, is that even if Mateus Nunes does leave this window, I still feel Wolves have got enough to stay up. I just feel it'll be really, really tough work. Obviously, it's a mountain to climb as it is, but I still think we've got the players there. But like you said, once you get sort of injuries and suspensions, it's going to be an impossible task, for my opinion. What's your opinions on Semedo to Man United, Lewis?
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought, this is one of them performances, one of these rumours that gets born out of when one of our players has a good performance against that team. They'll just be like, oh, they want to buy him now. So I don't think there is too much to it personally. I just think, like Danny says, we can't really let him go. I mean, would you play Nuri left back still and then put Bueno at right back? Maybe that could be a solution. I don't know how strong he is there, but you're papering over cracks. And one thing that I think is important to remember as well, with the new yellow cards and suspensions, that totting up's going to happen quickly. I think we're going to experience a lot of suspensions this season, and that could also play a part as well. We can't. I like Semedo personally. If we sold him for 12 million, I wouldn't be happy. Put it that way. I think that's absolute daylight robbery. I don't know how long he has left on his contract, but it must be 3 years at least, I think.
I'm not sure it is. Can you have a look at that, Jeff? I'll see when his contract is due to expire. Obviously the other news was Boubacar Traoré to Mönchengladbach. Jeff, I'm just going to ask you that while you're looking for Semedo's contract. What's your sort of feelings on whether Boubacar Traoré to Mönchengladbach is a plausible transfer this window? Can everyone hear you there? I can't hear you, Jeff.
Sorry, mate. So yeah, I mean, it's plausible. It's difficult to say because a lot of it works on what Liverpool are doing, and it feels like we're all almost like pieces of dominoes within a game at the moment, which all comes back to like it almost feels like Mendes has come back again, but it's the whole football world we're dealing with. But yeah, I mean, it's plausible. It's just it's difficult to say that as we've said over and over again already, we can't afford to lose players because you can't see where they're coming. And to answer your question on Semedo, his contract runs out in 2 years' time. So that's 2025. So you still want to be saying closer to 20 million for somebody who's played Champions League football or and has plenty of Premier League experience.
Wasn't the fee from Wolves to Spurs for Doherty around 12 million?
Yeah, and you're looking at a player there who isn't as highly rated. I know he's gone on to play for the likes of Atletico Madrid, but it's not like he's pulled up trees. Semedo's always had a good reputation and comes counter Wolves with a lot of unfulfilled ability and had a lot to prove. So to put him in the same sort of price bracket as what Matt Doherty went to Spurs, for is, as Lewis said, daylight robbery. It is Man United chancing it.
The only other sort of transfer rumour I've heard in regards to incomings is Burnley midfielder Josh Brownhill. Danny, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I feel like a bit like Oliver, that we're hungry, we need players, but what are they giving us? And no offense to Josh Brownhill, I just feel it's at best stagnating. Sorry. Yeah, he's okay. He's energetic. He will press. That's the style we seem to be going to. Hopefully, we stick to and we don't change if we get a couple more bad results. It's a body through the door. It's a bit more depth, but it's not depth if he comes in, Nunes goes out, potentially Boubacar. So there's people more qualified than me. If Matt Hobbs has got him on a list saying he fits a profile, he's going to fit in our team perfect, brilliant. But I won't be losing any sleep if we don't sign him. Sorry for being negative about that one.
Yeah, that's the episode title there, Danny. Josh Brownhill is like being fed gruel. Like I say, Josh Brown. Well, I sort of agree with what you're saying there. If Matt Hobbs thinks he's the type of player fits the profile of what we need, then we'll back him. But if you put it on paper, if Matheus Nunes does go to Man City and Josh Brennell is his replacement, it's massively underwhelming. I think that's where we are as a fan base at the moment. Massively underwhelmed. There's a lack of optimism, void of any hope going to this season. All I can implore the fan base is just try and stick with the coaching staff and the players, because they're being thrown under the bus here. I've got my opinions on Fosun. I feel that they've done a great job over the years, but things are quickly being ruined with what they've done in the past. That took us from obviously they brought us debt free from Steve Morgan. They got us to the Premier League within sort of 2 years of taking over the club. They got us to a European quarter final based on, just having the whole system working together. Everyone seemed to be pulling together at the time, from Jeff Shea all the way to kit men, program sellers, YouTubers. Everyone was pulling for Wolves. Wolves was everyone's favourite second team in the Premier League in that second season, because we were set up there to upset the apple cart, and ever since the pandemic, things just haven't really gone well. The recruitment's been poor. Too many key members of the club have left, and it's tough. Me and Danny had a conversation via DMs on Twitter earlier on in the week in regards to the rumblings of a possible takeover. I'm personally not buying into it. Everyone's sharing the same screenshot DM. I don't see it myself. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, because I feel like this club needs an injection of optimism, but I don't see why Chairman Guo's at Molineux the weekend dressed to the nines in Wolves gear if he's still going to be owning this club. It may be that we're still seeking investment, which they've advertised numerous times, whether there's a possibility of that coming on at the moment, but we'll see in the coming weeks. Swedish Rumble on Twitter put out a massive tweet earlier. I think it was either this morning or yesterday, which was quite interesting. If you have a chance to read it, at Swedish Rumble. A lot of talks out there about Wolves having FFP issues, with reports from BBC, The Athletic, and many others bringing it up. Facts are that the assumption that Wolves have FFP issues seems to be incorrect. If Wolves don't have any skeletons in the closet, which is a line I want you to keep in the forefront of your mind as I go through the rest of this. Wolves composed £105 million loss over the seasons ending in 2022, 23 and 24. Only the 2022 annual report has been published to date, during which Wolves have posted a £46 million loss. About 10 million of those can be deducted for healthy expenses. That makes it a £35 million loss. So how can we be certain that Wolves haven't posted a £35 million plus loss in each of 23 and 24 season? They even signed players for 177 million before the 2022-23 season. You have to bear with me, though, guys. This is a massive tweet. Wolves have sold players for £167 million just this and last season. Of that, about £120 million at least will be a pure profit. The math is simple. If they had a £35 million loss in 2022 and a £120 million player sales profit, the operating loss in both 2022-23 and the 2023-24 would have to be an average of £95 million. Firing coaches and signing someone like Diego Costa due to injury could easily add up to unforeseen costs of £20 million alone. But this season, the wage bill should be lower than in a long time, obviously with the departures of Raul Jimenez, João Moutinho, Adama Traore. I would instead bet on that they could sign players for at least 100 million, which would add about 30 million pound in cost for next season, right now, without selling anyone further. Why are Wolves as a club claiming / leaking that we have financial fair play issues? Wolves are posting regular losses of 30 to 40 million. For them to keep spending, the owners have to pick up the bill to balance the books. Austerity is needed. I do think it's pretty noteworthy, and a lot of people are saying this on social media, that there doesn't seem to be enough questioning from local journalists on this, whether what Fosun are saying is legit or there's something a bit, or maybe they're just not fully aware of how financial fair play works, which is, there's no judgment on that. I'm sure the people who write financial fair play, I'm still not 100% on how financial play works, because it seems to benefit the bigger clubs more than the little clubs. But when you look into sort of the financial side of it, we're a club that doesn't have the incoming revenue, the likes of Man United, Chelsea, and the financial revenue that Manchester City report they have. What's your thoughts now, Danny, on the fact that, do you still think there's a possibility of a takeover brewing? What's your thoughts where you are now?
I think so. I honestly do. Potentially a co-ownership. The, the only thing I think Falson have gone big using our badge, you know, our brand, if you like. I hate using that word when it comes to a football club, but it is what it is. Esports is worth billions every year. I cannot see Falson walking away and starting up a new brand when they've got our badge there. So I think if it is to happen, I wouldn't pop the champagne yet. I think Falson will still have, whether it's 49% shares or whatever. So yeah, that's where I am at the minute. We're getting to a point now. It's going to be typical Wolves. We're either going to be taken over or co-ownership, or we are just going to start dropping down the leagues because Falson seem to have given up, to be honest. But we'll be here for all of it anyway.
Oh, most definitely. I said this the other day that it doesn't matter what division we're in. I'll still be following Wolves. You know, I ain't as old as some of the Wolves fans who saw us in the really bad years in the 80s under the Batties and stuff. But losing 5-1 to West Brom at home was bad. Losing 3-0 at home with them sat in my seat was bad. Back-to-back relegations. It's bad, but it never stopped me going. I still have a season ticket in League One, and I still have a season ticket in League Two. If we somehow drop there, because I don't know about you guys, League One, the away days in League One was better than anything I've experienced in Championship and the Premiership anyway. Obviously, Lewis, you've sort of seen Wolves in the better years of your life under the Fosun regime. Where do you currently stand with the way they're running the club? Don't be afraid to share your proper opinion here.
Yeah, no, I think I think I said to someone earlier on Twitter, they're undoing all their good work. You know, I was probably 12 or 13 when we was in League One last time, and you know everyone slates Morgan, but you know Steve Morgan didn't have what Fosun have. You know, he was a house builder from Liverpool. He wasn't a conglomerate from China that was arguably on assets the fifth richest owner in the Premier League. So I think I just don't get their methodology behind it. And, you know, I think that fans have a part to play. You know, we do have some fans on Twitter that, you know, the club come out and say something and then we just like stir something up. Like they come out and say we're signing no players. But I don't think they help because I just don't think anything's clear. But like you say, I'm one of them people. I'm very laid back. You know, as much as, like you say, I'm not going to stop going tomorrow if Wolves go down. You know, success is only half. I always say to my friends, actually, you know, if I wanted to support a really, really successful club and just watch my team win all the time, I'd support Man City. You know, you don't support Wolves for that. You support Wolves because you support Wolves. And it don't matter what league we're in. We're always, like you just said, we're always going to support Wolves. But I don't think Fosun are helping themselves at the moment. I think they should be grateful we've got 2 away games now for them to sort it out. Because if we was at home this week and we started losing, I wouldn't want to see the atmosphere because I think it could turn. And I feel for Gary O'Neill and the players because, you know, they're the ones caught in the middle of all this. João Gomez was brought in. He so wanted to come to Wolves. He thought we was going in the right direction, and it seems we're not. So you've got to think for the players and the coach as well at the same time. So, yeah, I think everyone's sort of against the owners. I'd love to know what the players are thinking. I'd love to be on a fly on the wall in the dressing room and see what they think of Jeff Shee and Fosun as well.
I felt my heart palpitation would increase massively if I was a fly on the wall in that dressing room at the moment. Because I did put the tweet out the other day that, you know, these players who've been sold a project at Wolves, Mateus Cunha, João Gomez, basically working under Lopetegui, they'll be, I mean, I hope they're not, but from my opinion, I expect them to be very bemused at the moment with the way that they've been sold a project. Obviously, Lopetegui was a caliber of manager that a lot of players would have liked to work under. Jeff, where are you currently standing on Fosun? Jeff, are you one of the many who are posting Fosun out on every Wolves tweet at the moment?
No, I'm still not like totally against Fosun. You know, there is a lot of worse situations we could be in right now, and there are a lot worse owners out there in football. I think we need to be a bit more realistic in our expectations of what we are as a football club, because it's easy to be jealous of the team down the road in Aston who are spending big money, have a, you know, Unai Emery, who's a fantastic manager, and signing top players. It's easy to worry about what everyone else is doing. But at the end of the day, we've invested a hell of a lot of money in the last, Fosun and the club have invested a hell of a lot of money into players over the last 4 or 5 years, and a lot of it has been spent badly. That's through inexperience through Fosun, and they almost held their hands up and apologised for that by bringing in Matt Hobbs and essentially Laurie Dalrymple going, Scott Sellers going. A lot of the old hierarchy were there when the Fosun first come into the club, or people that they brought in have now gone. So Fosun have acknowledged that they've made mistakes by changing the system and the hierarchy of the club. But we need to understand that, okay, change will happen. We need to go through periods of where we need to develop players, because we don't have a cash cow like Chelsea. We don't have an academy full of 30, 40 players we can loan out every year. I know they can't do that anymore, but all that value in there and all those assets, we can't get rid of them. The only way we can make money is to sell players, and it's a real sad situation to find ourselves in, but it's the Fosun's only way out without investing. And they've got to answer to shareholders. And shareholders don't care about some little city in the middle of England. They don't. They care about profit, and they care about making money for themselves. So it's not a difficult situation to look at. It's just we've got to understand we need to temper our expectations on what they want to do with a football club, and we need to run probably more efficiently as a business.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm still adamant that Scott Sellers took Jeff Shee's last bullet. Since since Laurie Dalrymple left, you mentioned Scott Sellers, Kevin Felwell, Matt Hobbs had to be brought in. I've been telling people for months that Jeff Shee was pretty much walking the plank. I thought he would have been gone by now. I thought they would have brought someone in to replace Jeff Shee, because he said not long into his tenure as chairman that he wasn't really a football man, didn't really know the ins and outs of football. It seems to me that Jorge Mendes was doing us good favours at the start, and Jeff Shee was maybe over-reliant on Jorge Mendes. That's why you had the likes of Guedes coming in, Fabio Silva, £35 million, Semedo, big money during the pandemic, which at the time wasn't really the sort of profile of players I think Wolves needed. Did that have an effect on Nuno Espirito Santo pretty much becoming the void that he became in the end, sitting on his arse during that Albion game, which I'm still annoyed at him at? But was he literally fighting a battle that he wasn't going to win in the end? There is a lot of questions that you can throw at Fosun, which will all come out in the wash later on in our lives when hopefully we're successful, but who knows. The other latest news that's come out of Wolves earlier on today is the rumoured return of Chiquinho. Reports on Stoke City forum. So this is what I'm saying. It's only a rumour. I'm not sure the legitimacy of this. Apparently, he will be returning to Wolves soon due to a bad attitude and the fact that Stoke have brought in another winger in the last week or so. What's your thoughts on Chiquinho returning, Jeffo?
It's difficult, really, because if it is what they're saying, and it is rumours of bad attitude and him having this temper, being worried about playing and getting minutes, then it don't look good for the player. It really doesn't. But the whole Chiquinho going to Stoke, that took everyone by surprise. No one in the fan base thought that we'd be loaning out Chiquinho, because he was so. Although raw, he looked like he was going to be a crucial player for us. He looked like he could make a difference in the last 10, 15 minutes of games, or he could play games against, even this season, the likes of Luton, Sheffield United. He could be involved from the start against clubs like that. For us to send it to a club like Stoke, somebody who no offence to Stoke, they're not going to challenge for the Championship title this season. They shouldn't. That they're not going to challenge to be promoted and get back into the Premier League. So to send a player with so much raw potential, who we felt that could play minutes for us as a Premier League club, was bemusing. So it for it to fail like this on its arse, potentially, as you say, it's still a rumor, isn't really surprising, because the player himself knows that he should be playing Premier League football because he's good enough.
I did put the tweet out originally when he joined on loan that him and Hover have been banished to Stoke. Maybe he has got there and obviously not got the minutes he was expecting, and for sod this, I'm down in tools. I ain't playing for these lot. I'm of the opinion that he would get minutes for Wolves. With 9 substitutes available this year. I thought the unknown wild card that Wolves had in their pocket was Chiquinho and Kalajic coming off the bench with 15 minutes to go. It seemed foolproof to me, Danny. What's your thoughts on Chiquinho and that? Obviously, that what I've just said, Chiquinho and Kalajic as an option.
Yeah, I think Jeffo used the perfect word. I think he's raw. I think there's talent there. He got the assists when he has played for us in the Premier League already. So I was surprised we loaned him out. I'd just like to say, I mean, obviously it's rumour. Our fan base, we haven't seen any of this bad attitude or anything for Chiquinho. So Alex Neil is manager. He's been known to be a bit feisty in the past. So I'll stick up for our player there. And if I was dragged off after half an hour of a football match and I'm loaned out and I'm the Premier League player, I'd be a bit annoyed. But yeah, get him back here. We'll have him back and give him a cuddle. No problem.
Agree with that, Lewis?
Yeah, get him back. I thought he was fantastic. When he got injured last year, I was gutted. I think it was, didn't he get this? I might be wrong. Didn't he get the assist for Cody's goal at Chelsea? Yeah, that was a moment that really stuck out for me. I was right down the front there, so he gave me that moment. And yeah, like you say, he can cross a ball, and I just think how many corners have we seen not beat the front man in the last 4 years? Like it was nice. It was refreshing to see someone just beat their man across the ball. No, don't mess around with it. Just beat your man across the ball. Does everything I want. Just get him back. Yeah, if that is the case, I'll take him back. Even if that weren't the case, I wish I'd never gone in the first place. It's another option. I don't think we have a player like him with his pace, and really he does the unexpected. So yeah, all for it.
I don't think Chiquinho is similar to the likes of sort of Sarabia, maybe similar to Sarabia. Hear me out before I finish that. Similar to Neto or Hwang or I'm trying to think what other wings. Podence. Chiquinho, he has got the ability to beat the fullback, but he isn't afraid. Literally, just take one touch and get the ball straight away. There's too many wingers that I've seen in the Premier League, not just for Wolves, that have to beat the fullback, and it gives the defence so much time to set. And all the Brexit centre halves in England who comfortable and just heading it away. It's a field day for them. Chiquinho has that ability of putting a cross on the money from deep or having beat the fullback, whereas Neto, I know a few of the Fancast are massively annoyed by Pedro Neto playing on the right. He has got the ability to beat the fullback, but it just doesn't seem to work with him on the right. We'll talk a bit more about the Lockley lineup in a few minutes, but yeah. What's your thoughts on Sarabia, Lewis? Because I'm going to ask every Wolves fan that I know until everyone's agreeing with me. What's your thoughts on Sarabia, Lewis?
I don't know your opinion, so this could be a bit. Do you know? I do.
Sure, I've got you primed to kick out if you don't agree.
No, I do like him to a point. I think he's a good player, but I don't think. I think last season it was just not the right time for him to come in and make an impact because, he's a luxury player, I think, but I don't know what it is. I just don't think he's like his position. It's weird. Like he just don't seem quick enough, if you know what I mean. Like he don't seem like he can beat someone, but like he's good. But I just don't know where I'd play him. He's just an awkward player. And then I think like against Man United, everyone had a great game. Like even he had a good game, but it was sort of like you couldn't pick out something he did, and you couldn't be like he did that really well. Like he's just one of them. He's just average. I just think he's an average player.
Yeah, obviously we had Johnny Phillips on. I think it was last week who informed the Wolves Fancast viewers that the best place to watch Pablo Sarabia is from really low down at pitch level, because the view I see of Pablo Sarabia every week, he's not good enough. Yet people were quick to remind me last week that he got an assist for those who played the Fantasy Premier League with his set piece for Wang's header. I just feel like this is Premier League and it's not American football. We're not in a position where we can carry kickers during a 90-minute football match. He's a tidy footballer, but I just think the intensity and the pace of the Premier League just doesn't suit him whatsoever. And people won't agree with me on this, but I know he's currently a bad egg, but Daniel Powden starts out with Pablo Sarabia every day of the week for me and twice on a Sunday. I think there's levels to effectiveness, but Drop a comment if you think Pablo Sarabia is better than I think he is. We'll talk about game week 3 of the Premier League now. Chelsea versus Luton kick off the weekend in just under an hour. Bournemouth versus Spurs is the Saturday lunchtime kickoff, and then the 3 o'clock is Arsenal, Fulham, Brentford, Palace, United at home to Forest, obviously Everton at home to Wolves, and then Brighton, West Ham is the R5 kickoff. I'm going to come to you first, Danny. Obviously, we've had a lot of time now to digest the performance against Brighton. 4-1 was very damaging, but how did you think we fared against that Brighton side?
I'll come out the ground, and the first thing to my mates was, other than that 10 minutes, I thought matched is probably going a bit too far, but I felt we challenged in the right areas. We certainly created enough opportunities again. It was just a mad 10 minutes. I know we're going to get into Everton later, but compare our 4-1 loss to their performance against Villa, and the worlds apart. It gives me more frustration that we're not just getting a little bit more 2 or 3 signings in that team, because they're not far off. This is a Brighton team who've been on form for months with an on-fire manager. Again, we're talking about players leaving. We haven't got players coming in to replace them. That they've got that at the minute. It'll probably wear out like you do with Southampton. The demand will outweigh the supply. But considering where they are at the minute in their trajectory, I thought we did okay.
I agree. I thought we just came up against a really good side, and Brighton. I'm not going to sort of blow smoke up the arse. It just felt like a game as if we were playing against Man City, where in previous seasons, that the fine margins, we were able to nick goals at important times against Man City. And obviously, on the day, Brighton took their chances. You mentioned sort of months there, Danny. I think this is a culmination of seasons with Brighton. Back they were the prime XG side, weren't they, Jeffo, under Potter? And now it seems like they're finally taking their chances, and they have recruited well.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to look over the last sort of couple of years, and you look at the players that the Brighton have bought in for minimal money. McAllister, Semedo, these players, and Cucurella as well. They have a system. They have a philosophy. They know how they want to play football. They know how they want to develop players and buy low and sell high. And a lot of that comes through very good scouting network and a very good understanding of what the club needs. And without going into that sort of Moneyball thing and understanding like metrics of players and looking at stats, and that it's a very holistic view of the way that football should be looked at now. And this modern idea of taking statistics, but actually looking in different places and watching players and looking at how behavioural patterns play in with that as well. And Brighton do that fantastically, and they are the epitome of what a football club should be run outside of the top 6. And as I said earlier, it's hard not to be jealous of a club like this, because they play good football, they have good players, and they buy players. And it's an enjoyable experience to have a match there at Brighton, and their fans must be cock a hoop. So it's difficult to look at, but as you say, you can say with pride, I'm glad to have a team like that in the Premier League, because it shows it can be done. It's done the right way.
Yeah, someone made the comment, Adam Webster, Solly March. Do these players, if they go on to sign for Chelsea, which Chelsea will probably sign them next week, knowing how Chelsea work at the moment, do those players reach the levels of what they're playing at currently at Chelsea? It just seems like a system that's been built for like 3 or 4 years and that's finally paying off. And the players that they've sold, Semedo had an absolute nightmare debut at West Ham last week, coming off the bench and giving away a penalty. Alexis McAllister got sent off, which has now been rescinded for Liverpool last weekend. Like I said, these players, they just seem like the perfect system team at the moment. And I just think behind Man City, I don't think there would have been a worse team for Wolves to play last weekend after that Man United game, because everyone had so much optimism. And I think anyone at home, apart from Man City and Brighton, I think we would have probably beat last weekend, because I feel like after that Man United performance, the fans were so on side, the players seemed up for it. But I just think we just came up against a team who were just so much fine-tuned than what we were. And that's the fine margin of the Premier League, isn't it? If you don't take your chances, and we had some big chances in that first half with Fabio Silva, Aït-Nouri and Pedro Neto, and even the half chance that Matheus Nunes had when he cut in from the left and shot wide of his right. On another day, we would have went into half-time lead in that game, but I think over the course of that 90 minutes, Brighton showed, and this is what I keep saying, Brighton showed why they're a team challenging for top four, and we're a team challenging to avoid being in the bottom four. It's going to be a long season, and I made a comment which got a few people heated during the game last week, and hearing myself say I agreed why they were getting frustrated. But for me, our season starts tomorrow. Brighton and Man United weren't free hits, but for me, we have to start picking up points from tomorrow. If you would have said to me before the season, Man United away and Brighton at home, we'd take a point, I would have been chuffed with that. Maybe that's a bit negative, but I feel that's the sort of optimism that this ownership has thrown at me recently. Let's look at the likely lineups for the fixture tomorrow. I'm going to pull it up on screen now. Going to go with a 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-3-1, however way you look at it. Same defence as last week. Is there any sort of clamour from you, Danny, for Dawson to be replaced by Totti at all?
No, not at the minute. I go back to the Celtic friendly. Lopetegui was trying to play a high line, and he's going to get caught in behind. He got caught a couple of times last week, but the few days before against Man United, he was absolutely fine. Not at the minute, not for me. I think to have Totti and Kilman, both left-footed, Totti, inexperienced, Kilman fair enough, he's captain, but no, leave Dawson where he is.
Any change in the midfield for you, Lewis? From what I've got there, I've got a midfield two of Lemina and Gomez with Hwang, Neto, and Cunha behind Fabio Silva.
Yeah, to be honest, I like that. I know Nunes is a great player. You're never going to leave him out, but I feel that midfield gives us more balance. Having Hwang, who's a natural sort of wide player, like ideally you'd have Nunes more where Cunha is. I think it's a really strong side. I've always liked Hwang. I think he's always scored for us. He had a barren run when he come back from injury, but I don't think he was ever 100% there. I really like him. I think it's one of them. I'm going to curse it here because I've been to Everton away twice. It always seems to be a nightmare to get to for me, and I've got to drive tomorrow 4.5 hours each way. But I've seen us win both times I've been last season, and then the 3-1 the year we first got promoted. So I'm all for it. And like you said, we need to start picking up points because Palace away is never easy. I know that from experience because they taunt me every season we lose there. I think the last time we won there was when Doc scored, and it's been pretty dire since. Jota equalised, didn't he, late on, but we've had 2 losses since. So I think tomorrow is somewhere where we've done well in the past. I like the lineup. Let's go and get the 3 points.
Obviously, Matheus Nunes suspended tomorrow. Jeffo, any sort of changes you'd make in that lineup there?
Yeah, I mean, the two I'd probably look at changing, just for the sense of structural, defensive stability, is I would probably take out Semedo for Doherty and Aït-Nouri for Bueno. I think Bueno is probably a better defender, and I think Doherty is probably a little bit more solid than Semedo as well. I think we need to focus now on not conceding and to try and build from the back. The one thing that we noticed in the last couple of games is we've given up too many chances in the way that we played football. And I think that's been kind of in the precedent of Wolves for the last year or so, is that we've given up too much space. And I think said earlier, and Danny says it earlier, when Lopetegui was trying to play a high line, we can't do that. We have to play to our strengths and what we have. You know, we have Craig Dawson, he's the wrong side of 30. Max Kilman's not blessed with pace. Aït-Nouri and Semedo are very attacking players. So you are going to get caught out behind. You need players who've got a little bit more defensive nous and a bit more understanding of how to play and play a slightly deeper line. They need to be playing 10 yards deeper than they have been. So I'd say definitely, for me, I'd bring in Bueno. I think he's just a better left back than Aït-Nouri, and Doherty for Semedo. I just think Semedo probably needs to be taken at the firing line after, because I know God, he won't like me saying this, but I thought he had a pretty bad game against Brighton. So I'd take him at the firing line and bring in Doherty because he is an ideal replacement.
I'm gonna disagree with a lot of that, to be honest. I don't think Semedo was had a great game. I think he just came up against a winger in Matoma that, for me, won't be at Brighton much longer. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up at Real Madrid in a year or so because of the ability and the sort of marketing ability that he'll have as a footballer. I thought he was outstanding, and it isn't the first time that he's absolutely rinsed Nelson Semedo. And to a degree, I respect your opinion, saying that we probably should build from the back, but I watched the majority of the Aston Villa Everton game, and I feel that Everton are there to be got at from the off. I feel like we could blow these away early if we have the right intent from the off. I feel like Pedro Neto coming up against Ashley Young on that right, if that is the way that Gary O'Neill's going to go, and Hwang coming up against Nathan Patterson, if Silva and Cunha can build up a relationship, which at moments I thought worked really well against Brighton. I think Cunha actually laid Silva through for the one-on-one, didn't he? So, what's your opinion on the team for tomorrow, Danny? Any sort of changes that you'd make?
Not really. I did think Hwang coming for Nunes. I think it's probably the best bet. Obviously, he got the goal last week. He's got the physicality to get back in when we need numbers back. They've got injuries. They're going to be low on confidence after last week. I totally agree with you. We've got to try and hit them early. Don't let them get settled. We've got to remember who the manager is. They took a battering last week. They're not going to come out with their arse in the air, letting us just walk it in. Just get at them early. Get these front players. I mean, you look at again, this is a frustrating thing. Look at our starting lineup. There's a lot of ability there against this team. That back two, especially Tarkowski and Keane, we can get in there and get at them, get it early. Issues for me tomorrow maybe if it's 0-0 and it's dragging on. What do we do? Do we do what you'd suggested earlier? Do we get the big Sasha on? With Neto, we should get it Young. I don't like him on the right. I thought last week they had James Milner, who's 58 years old, and you're just begging to get Neto on to run at him, and get Nunes, who's got better close ball control. His ball retention is brilliant. Get their left back out of position. But we'll see tomorrow. I'm happy with that. Yeah.
I think we need to be, like you've mentioned there, Ashley Young at left back. He is a solid professional, but I think Pedro Neto and Nelson Semedo, Danjuma was the only sort of positive I took from Everton's performance away to Liverpool. He looked relatively sharp, but the Everton fan who provided me this lineup, he seems to suggest that Sean Dyche doesn't think he's 100% fit. So whether he starts tomorrow, there is a possibility of the academy player Dobbin maybe starting ahead of Danjuma, but like I just mentioned there, Semedo and Pedro Neto coming up against Ashley Young. We need to try and exploit that tomorrow. It's an area that you mentioned it just, Danny, in regards to if it's sort of 0-0 at half time and me mentioning I think we need to go at them from the start. The longer this game goes 0-0, their fans are going to become tiresome. I think if we was to get an early goal, their sort of toxicity levels is probably a little bit higher than our fan bases at the moment. So they're ready to turn at any opportunities. That's why I think Wolves should be going at Everton right from the off tomorrow. What's your score prediction, Lewis?
I'd say we never win by 2, so I'd say 2-1. But like I say, like you just mentioned, it's about us going there, getting that goal, because Goodison Park's it's known. It's like Molineux. It's known for being a toxic ground, especially like recently. I mean, if you said, is there many clubs in a worse state than Wolves? If I had to name a few, I would say Everton are right up there, in the sense that it's just chaos, isn't it? Every season, they're back in there. So, I think if we beat them as well, it goes longer. It's sort of they're winless again. If they don't win again next week, it's that third spot we will talk about. We're also confident on Luton, Sheffield United. Let's get Everton down there as well, below us. And then it's a 3-point gap already. See what we can do.
I just think we need to, like I say, come out the gate sharp tomorrow, get their fans restless. I think, get a couple of shots in on Pickford early, and then let's just try and take it to them. I think, like I said, that the way that they performed at Villa, they had a few chances which Emi Martinez made some half-decent saves from, but Villa aren't amazing. They've got a bit of momentum as a club. but 4-0 at home to Everton. I had Villa to beat Everton 4-0 on the Super Six last week. I was that confident Everton was going to get panned because I just feel defensively, and I think they're a bit weak in midfield. And the fact that they've lost Alex Iwobi to injury, as well as Calvert-Lewin, I feel they're there to be beaten comfortably tomorrow. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me, but I genuinely feel that they're going to be one of the teams that are in and around the relegation zone the majority of this season, along with Luton and Sheffield United. What's your score prediction, Danny?
I think gonna have two nervous teams, probably with morale issues. Possibly, I think it's got 0-0 written all over it. Honestly, do. I'm sorry.
It would be a point on the board and a foundation to build from. I think like this fan base, unless we win comfortably, I'm going to find something to moan about, but a point on the board would just be a foundation to build from. What's your score prediction, Jeffo?
Yeah, I'd say don't apologise, Danny, because I'm going for a draw as well. I'm going 1-1. I just think that a point at this point, wow, that's great. A point in this game is important. It is essentially a must not lose for both sides, because no one wants to go into that fourth game or the fifth game of the season, chasing that first point, or even that first win in some cases. So yeah, 1-1. It's safe. Deutsch is going to have him set up to not lose anyway. So if we can get a point away at a rival and then hopefully beat him at our place, I'd be well happy about that.
Yeah, Deutsch, after that 4-0 defeat, he'll have had him practicing defending all week. There'll be no sort of attacking element to their training sessions this week. I suspect it would just be all out. We're not conceding against Wolves on Saturday, but I just feel like we just already mentioned that you look at our lineup compared to theirs. We have to be winning this game tomorrow. I don't see the momentum on the back of our two performances. I'm hoping there's still a bit of confidence in the squad that on the back of those two performances away at Man United, we should have picked up at least a point. Like Danny mentioned, we didn't go toe-to-toe for the 90 minutes, but I felt we gave Brighton a really good go in that last weekend, apart from that sort of 10 minutes just before and after half-time. So I'm sorry if this is on me. I'm going Wolves 2-0 tomorrow. I think, like I said, we've got players there in that lineup that I'm hoping will turn up and get us the 3 points tomorrow. Let's have a quick chat on the game week 3, because I always like to ask you where your money's at. Looking at those fixtures there, Lewis, who's your banker for a win this weekend?
I think Brentford are great value at home to Palace. As much as I think Palace are dangerous, still no Elise. I heard from one of my mates who works at Palace, he's out till the end of September, so he'll be out for our game as well. And I think Brighton at home to West Ham. They're the two main ones, and I think Spurs will probably be good value away at Bournemouth. I backed them last week against Man United. Bournemouth are good, but I really like Spurs this season. And out of the top 6, they're always the ones that I don't mind too much. My mates that support Spurs always gloat a lot less because they never win anything. So, yeah, they're the 3 for me. Spurs, Brentford, Brighton will be my treble tomorrow, probably in the Premier League.
Where's your money, Jeffo?
I'd probably say United need to put on a show at home to Forest. So if they're not winning by 3-4 goals to 0, their fans are going to be absolutely, disillusioned with what Erik ten Hag's trying to do. So I'd say United at home have got to put on a show for their fans.
So Lewis has gone for Brentford at home to Palace. Jeffo's gone for United at home to Forest. What are you saying, Danny?
I actually had a look earlier. I fancy Forest to get a draw. Watched them against Arsenal. Thought the proper good show. Obviously, got the points last week against Sheffield United. I fancy him, and as a stupid outside £1 bet, I think Man City at Sheffield United. Man City haven't got Pep on the bench. Might be worth £1.
Don't know what. Do you know what the odds are of that? Just a chance.
I think if you put £1 on, you lose £1. But I'm unsure. But without Pep on the bench, you never know. At Bramall Lane, if their fans get up behind them, they've got to lose some games this season.
16-1. 16-1, man. Sheffield United at home to Man City, which I don't think is great odds, to be honest.
Like you said, Danny, you bet £1, you lose £1. I'm going out on a whim here, lads, and I'm sorry. This is basically viral plug in here. We're the banker to win this weekend. I'm telling you, this is the weekend we put Everton to the sword, and their fans got really toxic against Dyche and their owners because it's already bubbling. And I think our 11 tomorrow, I think Mateus Cunha and Fabio Silva both bagged tomorrow. Hopefully I won't be back next week with really glum and just a glum face, and hopefully I haven't let you down, guys. But I'm backing Wolves to get the win at home. Away to Everton tomorrow. Hope you've all had enjoyed the show. Thanks again for supporting us at Wolves Fancast along with Auddy. We'll be back on Sunday evening with a review show, hopefully talking about Mateus Cunha and Fabio Silva scoring the goals at Goodison Park tomorrow. Enjoy your weekend. Take care, everyone.